We just submitted our proving ground. So now if we go to unit modules, we're going to get introduced to our next assignment. And our next assignment is our time-based assignment. You'll actually notice on our assignments page, or rather our unit modules page, all of these are animated. Why did I take the time to animate every assignment? Well, because animation uses time as one of its design features, and it gets our attention in a way that color doesn't, that contrast doesn't. And when I look at the GIF animation project, what does its little animation icon show? It shows these triangular shapes and a diamond forming into different animals. Bless you. A fish, a horse, a cat, I don't know, a person. So let's look at this unit on GIF animations, because that's what all of these little animated icons are. GIF animations are a pretty small memory load raster-based animation. And we'll learn about how they're limited, but they're perfect for online format. GIF animations are the only type of time-based media that will play automatically within a web browser. You don't need to download any kind of player. You don't need to download Flash or a video editor or anything to see them. They will play automatically, just like these do, no matter what device you're accessing the internet from. Now, just like this little icon shows, which some of the other icons don't show, is we have a transformation being animated from one state to a new state. And when we're thinking about how to animate this project, what we want to animate, we want to think of transformation. Sometimes things aren't transforming. So this, for Unit 1, these 4 dots are moving. They're kind of pulsing and moving. They are not transforming. They are not changing state. They're just changing position. Or this thing, for the unit modules, this kind of like fancy, colorful gear. It is transforming. It is changing state. It's not just moving. Things on it are altering. Things that are changing, beginning, middle to end. Think of all these. A lot of them are transforming, whether they add color, whether they explode or not, right? Whether they glitch. But some of them are just moving. So there's a difference between what are called movement tests and transformation animations. And I'm really proud of some of these transformation animations. For instance, this one took me a long time to make, this kind of colorful gemstone. I love it, but it's not a transformation. It's just moving. Same thing with this one. It's just, this is a slower movement. And I can zoom in on them. You can see all the fidelity to them. Beautiful use. They are actually not 3D objects. They're made to look like it. So what we want to learn is how to identify when something is actually transforming, because that's what we're going to be asked to animate. And then what are you asked to transform? You're asked to transform something that you've already designed in the class. So this is an example, past student example, using their emoji project and transforming it. How did it transform? It's kind of hard to see in this. These hearts are the thing that changes from beginning, middle to end. The tongue is revealed, but the tongue isn't really transformed. So I'll talk more about that. The only project for this is the GIF animation project, and it's not due until October 9th. But that's not that long from now, right? So only have a couple work periods for it. So this is a transformation. Not so much because it's a transformation in expression, but because of the color and the horns and the drool, that's a change of state. Here's a transformation of the creature and setting. Basically, it's just showing that the creature is walking across its setting. And this was one of my examples, my fantasy creature on its fantasy setting. But I added the fact that this creature can roll up into a ball to camouflage as a rock. And then it transforms, just like a transformer toy, by unrolling from the rock and kind of hiding back in its shell. Right? So that's a pretty simple transformation of the creature, though most of the animation is just showing the walking and what's called a panning shot across this landscape. Here's that transformation I used on the front page. So the student wanted this hat to drop onto the creature. In a way, that's a transformation, because it's not there in the beginning, it is there by the end. But the big transformation actually happens in the eyes. You see how they change state. Those little hearts appear in the eyes, and then hearts grow out. Whereas the tongue is more about being revealed. And it is tough to think about all these elements, because they all have to be thought about from the beginning, and then handled in different timing through your frames. So how do we plan this? We plan with a 9-frame storyboard. It's what I call a rough storyboard sketch. And whether you're transforming your setting, whether you're transforming a character, whether you're transforming both, whether you're using your emoji, your cartoon line art jumble, your fantasy creature, your fantasy landscape, or some combination of them, you need to draw your ambitions here. So first, let's look at the sketch. I draw my creature. I introduce them in the landscape. And then clouds appear, and it starts getting colder, and my creature starts to freeze. So the change of state is starts unfrozen, ends up frozen. Then they start to thaw out as the sun comes out. That's it. That's the transformation of both setting and character. Because that was the semester where we had the big freeze. Well, I'm going to be showing it to you in Photopea. So, because we are doing raster building of it. And it's pretty direct. It's not the best animation program out there. It's the one that's free and browser-based. And then, because we're building our frames in Photopea, we need to have an editor to set the timing of the different frames. And for that, this is a good freeware, very simple, that we'll be using for editing them together, for setting the timing of our frames. It's called easygif.com. So if you wanted to use a different program to make your frames, I'm okay with that, as long as they're raster based at the end of the day, because we have certain pixel requirements.
My program that I already have, utilize both.
Yeah. So if as long as you can learn the skills I'm teaching, and we can put them together in a way that's compatible, I can support that. Because it's about learning those skills, the time-based skills. It's not so important that you learn only how to do it in Photopea and with freeware. That's just what I'll be demoing so that everyone has access. Okay, so if we look at these different examples, all 3 of these have transformations. Can you tell what they are? These are all just found examples. Yeah, because I think this is a fun project. You can see all the different professional work. So 2 of these have transformations and 1 doesn't. Which one doesn't have a transformation?
The second one.
Wow, I have a guess for each one. One of those is correct. So what I'm trying to teach you about transformation is it's a change of state from beginning, middle to end. So it does not have the same form at the end as it does at the beginning. This one has the same form throughout, right? It's cool that it moves, but it's just a movement test. This one starts as one way and ends as another way. This one starts as one way, like that, and then ends as another way, right? So those are both transformations. This one's more subtle, this one's more extreme. This one is non-existent, so it wouldn't meet all the requirements. Okay, what about these? 2 of these are transforming. The others aren't, even though they're cool. The bottom right one looks a lot like my icons, right? Because it looks like it's transforming. But then I ask, okay, this is its starting state. What does it transform into? So yeah, I would say this one doesn't actually transform. It kind of moves like it's about to, but it never changes state. Does that make sense? It's like if Linda Carter in the Wonder Woman cartoon started spinning And then at the end was just Linda Carter in the same suit she started with, right? So you don't have the end of the transformation there, though it's cool to look at.
Direct middle and the top left.
So I'd say, yes, the direct middle, that's a different state. It like gets fully deflated, right? In order to go back to the beginning, it has to change again. So yes, that's a transformation. This one is also a transformation. So I'd say the top left. Because of the color, not just the revealing of the eye, but the color. This one is, I guess you could say, revealing of the tears, but it's really just an expression change, right? So it's not as full a transformation. So I would say of these two definitely. These two are on the border. And then all these others, they're just motion tests. They're cool, but they're not going to meet the requirements of this animation. All of these are great transformation examples. I love these.
Somebody has been watching Steven Universe.
Yeah, it has that look. So it's all about changing of state. A professional that does this for print and for screen presentation is Evan Cohen. He also sells prints and comics. And what you can see is his prints are basically his storyboards for his animations. So this is what's called a rough animatic. This is just animating together his comic panels for this 9-frame animation. And in these 9 frames, he tells the whole story that he then does a cleaner animation for. So in 9 storyboard frames, you can make a really nice concept. And then it just depends how much work you want to put into it to clean it up. So my finished animation will probably be something like 50 frames, but it can be told in 9 frames. Well, the keyframes are these, right? So these keyframes are the ones that are telling the story. They're the ones you're drawing in your sketch. Everything that's not a keyframe is something that transitions between keyframes. We call those in-betweens, right? So this is a lot more than 9 animation frames. But it's showing all of these changes of state, right? So it has a lot of in-betweens to make it smoother, to make it more enjoyable. But that's all just gravy to make it more professional.
That answers my question.
Okay. Here are some others. This is by Laura Paulson. And these are just nice environmental transformations because we're so used to character transformations. We can have the environment change. We can have flowers appear. We can have, mist and colors change. We can have lights change. As long as it's a change of state, beginning, middle to end. So here's a past example. We start with a rough storyboard sketch. This was transforming one emoji into another emoji, right? And doing it through fire. And then once we're done with the animating, so first we sketch it, you bring that sketch for next class. Then we start learning how to animate it with our assets, with whatever you've already built and what other new things you want to bring in. So for instance, all the fire were new pixels, new creations. You can even draw your pixels for this. But any student that's tried to do a substantial part of this by hand drawing, frame by frame, has not been able to finish. So we want to use the digital in a smart way to learn the principles. Even if your ultimate ambition is to do a frame by frame hand-drawn animation, don't rely on that for this project. First, learn the principles of it. And then, once we're done with our animation, we make another storyboard, which we call a refined storyboard, which is made of 9 film stills from the animation to tell the story in a print form, right? Because in a print portfolio or a web portfolio, it's really good to show not just the animated file, which you can't do in a print format, but to also show your sequential frames. So that's like this version of this. They're different but helpful, and both are good to show in your portfolio. All right, so I have lots of instructional demonstration videos from past semesters. Under playlists, you just look for assignment 3 from the last few semesters. And you'll see how to sketch for it, how to set it up. I did one about censorship and banned books weeks in this class last semester. For this semester, I have to choose what I'm going to use Because you're required to show a transformation. You're required to do it in a 9-frame story.